Riverside County prosecutors are dedicated to keeping our neighborhoods, schools, and businesses safe. But this is no ordinary job. Prosecutors often describe it as a calling. Their career's a passion project in which they are personally invested. In this video series, district attorneys discuss the journeys that led them to become prosecutors and explain why years later, they continue to serve. Today, we sit down with Chief Assistant District Attorney John Akee and reflect on a distinguished career spanning nearly 30 years. John, welcome to Origin Stories.
Thank you.
Why don't we begin by talking a little bit about your formative years? Tell us, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Hawaii on the north shore of Oahu. Really a great childhood, more outdoors than indoors. Grew up surfing, playing sports. My biggest, goal in life was to become sort of a trash truck driver. We grew up in a very impoverished neighborhood, but a loving neighborhood, and I had a great family, large family. My mother had 9 brothers and sisters, and my dad had 11 brothers and sisters. So I had a number of cousins and extended family, and it was fantastic.
So when a lot of us think about Hawaii, we think about resorts and living the high life. Was that your experience as a kid?
No. Growing up on the North Shore, it's very country. It's old Hawaii. We grew up in a small home. It was a shack. If you describe it, it's a shack. And I grew up working really hard out in the yard. And I had uncles and aunts who worked on larger properties that we had to clear every summer. So we were basically the workforce, the kids. So.
As you grew up, did you start to kind of see a future for yourself and maybe think or dream about what you wanted to be when you were an adult?
I graduated from high school, and I really had no direction at the time. And, I woke up one day thinking, wow, what am I going to do once I graduate? I would say I was a rambunctious child. Let's just say that. I was a rascal. So I joined the military. It helped straighten me right out. It gave me discipline. It taught me a lot of the life skills that you need as an adult. And it helped me mature quite a bit. Actually, it was a great experience, and I highly recommend it for people who don't have a path or have not decided what they want to do with life.
Now, you mentioned the military. What branch did you serve in, and what sort of work did you do during your service?
I served in the Army, and I served for 4 years. I served in military intelligence. That's all I can really say about the work that I did. They tell you when you leave, especially when you work for an intelligence agency, this is all classified, it's all secret, and they could probably kill you if you talked about it. So,
well, let's not get in trouble. What was it about the military that helped you mature and gain focus that served you later in life?
Well, it was structure. And not to say that I didn't have structure at home. My dad died when I was 7, and I was raised by my mom for the longest time, and my siblings as well. I have a brother and sister. I grew up that way. I had a lot of independence, but with that came a lot of getting in trouble and doing things you shouldn't be doing, and a little less structured. So the military gave me that structure. It sort of focused me on a chain of command, and that there were people that you actually had to answer to. You also had to become an adult. You had to learn to write a check, although we don't have checks anymore. You had to balance a checkbook. You had to have a banking account. I bought my first car. All these things that you really don't learn as a high schooler and as a kid growing up in Hawaii. Learned it in the military.
So after you left the Army, tell us what you did next.
I signed up for the Warrant Officer Flight Program while I was in the military, and I got accepted. I passed the flight physical, I passed the test, and just before I had to go to my flight school, a sergeant major who had been in the Army for 30 years stopped me and said, listen, what kind of helicopters do you want to fly? And I said, well, I'd like to fly those attack helicopters. It was Cobras at the time, not the Blackhawks. He said, well, do you have your college education? And I said, no, nothing near accomplishing a degree. And he says, well, you're going to be flying troop transport then, because it's usually those guys who have engineering degrees, aeronautical degrees, who come in and fly the more sophisticated helicopters. And at that point, I chose to say, you know what? rather than re-enlist for 7 years, I'm going to get out and get my degree. I didn't do that right away. I got out. My cousin who lived here in California said, why don't you come? We have a basketball team. I loved basketball. I wanted to be a professional basketball player. I did not have any of the skills or the physical capabilities of doing it, but I wanted to. So I came to LA to play basketball and joined these leagues in downtown LA. Played a lot of basketball for a number of years. Didn't go to school right away until my aunt, who I was living with at the time, said, you either go to school or you got to move back home. And so I signed up for college. I was working full time, and I got to drive a truck, believe it or not.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, I finally
dream
did.
fulfilled.
It wasn't a trash truck, though. It was a Budweiser delivery truck for Ace Beverage. I delivered beer for a little while as part of my journey. And I did that for a while and eventually enrolled in school at Cal State Los Angeles in their night program. I took a class, a criminal law class, and that really interested me. I knew nothing about the law at the time. I think at this point I'm somewhere around the age of 25. And so in order to sort of look into what does it mean to be a lawyer, I mean, we took these classes. It was very interesting. So what better way than to open up the law journals, and it was the Daily Journal at the time, and I saw an advertisement. There was a law firm in Beverly Hills, a rather large one, looking for a stockroom clerk, and I applied and I got the job, surprisingly. And I started working there. One day, the senior partner at this law firm said, listen, my wife, her car's broken down in the middle of Wilshire Boulevard, and I need you to go take my car, trade it out with her, and you can wait with the car. And I said, sure, not a problem. And I took his car. It was a Mercedes 500 SL, brand new. It was fantastic. And it was the first time that I'd ever seen a car phone. It was this big brick that was sitting in the middle of the console. And I thought I was so, I had made it because I was driving the boss's car. I put the top down, and I drove through Beverly Hills, pretending like I was calling somebody on his phone.
Just high roller.
It was just, I guess the teenage part of me hadn't left my body yet. But I drove over to Wilshire Boulevard in Century City, and I dropped the car off with his wife. I had lifted the hood up. There were a couple of things just loose in her brand new Jaguar. I reattached the air manifold, I think, that had come loose, the intake manifold, and the car started right up. I shut the hood. I called the boss. That was my very first cell phone, sort of car phone transmission. I called him on her car phone, and I said, I got the car fixed, call off the tow truck, and I'll bring it back in. Having that opportunity, he brought me into the office, the senior partner, and he said, you work really hard. We noticed that you work hard around here, and you've got a pretty good attitude. What do you want to do with your life? I said, well, I'm looking at law because I don't know anything about it. That's why I'm working here in your firm. So he said, how would you like to become a paralegal? I saw the paralegals in our office. I didn't have a clue what they did, and I said, sure. So he assigned me to 2 junior partners, and he said, they'll take you under their wing, and they'll teach you about the law. And so for the next 2 years, I got an education, on-the-job education by these lawyers.
Did that experience spark an interest in maybe going to law school?
It did. I went to school at night, their night program at Southwestern, and I worked full-time at the law firm. The reason I got into prosecution, though, is we had a case. We had a case in which 3 young individuals, females, were living in this apartment down in Compton, the Jordan Down housing projects. They were always telling their landlord that we had a defective security door on their apartment. And the landlord dragged his feet, continued to kind of just dismiss them, and never repaired the door. One night, 3 gang members broke into their apartment complex, broke into their specific apartment, and 2 of the girls, who were teenagers, 15 and 16 years old, and then a 24-year-old adult female, were raped and then shot and left for dead. The older female lived, but she was paralyzed from the waist down. She was our firm's client. So when the trial, or the criminal trial, was set and was about to get underway, I was sent down to Compton to observe the trial to see if there was anything that we could pick up for our civil case. I remember the prosecutor to this day. His name was Kevin McCormick. He was an LA County hardcore gang deputy DA. It was a death penalty case. It was amazing. It was eye-opening. When I saw the dynamics of a criminal trial, I saw him question each witness. I saw the cross-examinations. I saw the defense case. And then I saw the verdict. And I saw the cloud lift off of our client's shoulders. I saw the cloud lifting off the victim's family shoulders. And it was at that moment I said, that's what I gotta do. I gotta do that. It was life-changing.